Granddaddy get in a fight with y'all at Caraway, or did y'all get in your own fight?
He started it.
No, we didn't know he was there. I was racing that night, and anyways, it was actually running pretty good for a change. But it got wrecked toward the end of the race. Didn't think nothing of it. And after the race, top 5 went through scales, and that boy was in top 5. And Lee Boy was in the stands. We didn't know he was there, and he'd come across, and he was in the window.
And Daddy says, "Go get your grandfather."
And then there was a big fight. Richie got arrested. Mama got arrested. They broke his nose with the cops broke his nose with the billy stick, and then Mama hit the cop on the back with an 1 1/8 inch. And yeah, it was all. Don't let the Petties out of Caraway.
I'm laying there and they're trying to stop the bleeding because when you bust your nose, blood everywhere. And the grandfather says, "Son, that'll teach you to lead with your nose and not your fist."
Yeah, but he so that was Saturday night, and he comes in Monday morning. And he said, "What made y'all go over there and start all that trouble?" He said,
No,
yeah, and
he started.
He was the one in the window with the guy. I mean, and what was he? 78 years old.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He didn't care.
Yeah.
Yep.
So so Uncle Maurice was just that intense. Then let me ask you a question. When you, because you worked here, you drove for him. What was he like to drive for you?
Man, it was a good time. I mean,
yeah,
because he had settled down.
Yeah.
But it was, I tell you that some of the Mark got this too, but there was a couple of times. I think that race at Talladega, I got in a wreck, whatever, but I was running up front, running with the lead crowd. And about a day later, he came up to me and said, "You know what, I hadn't had that feeling on the back of my neck in a long time." He said, "Thank you."
That's
all it was. That was a big deal for me. I mean, y'all don't understand that, but that was a big deal for me because I finally was accepted as a driver.
Yeah, for him,
right?
To him, to your dad,
right?
To your dad, that is a big moment.
Yeah, because he was finally saying that you can do this.
Yeah, y'all all worked for him too, though, and worked with him.
I was telling somebody earlier, he's the only boss man I had for 30 years. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, so what was he like as a teacher for y'all?
Tough.
Scary.
The good teachers are. Good teachers are because they let you make mistakes.
But Daddy was so smart. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
It's Mark's opinion. He's so smart, he couldn't figure out why you didn't know what he knew.
Yeah. No,
right? And it's just like I just didn't. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm dumb. Maybe I don't know. But
no,
there's no. But he couldn't understand why everybody didn't. It was so clear for him.
Yeah.
And he couldn't understand why you couldn't see it like he did.
Now we were growing up. We had a go-kart track behind the house.
Oh yeah.
And we raced go-karts.
Yeah, you did. Nice place.
Oh yeah. Now Dad, he'd come down there with his pickup truck. It was a tenth of a mile. And he'd get out there and just burn some laps with that truck and just have her sideways and all that. Because he used to drive back in the 60s when he could. So he never lost that feeling. He always wanted to drive.
Loved the dirt.
Yes, he loved the dirt.
Yes. Yeah. So you said something, and this is what's fascinating. And y'all worked here, a lot of y'all. But the thing was, it's the same way my dad was. He couldn't understand why you couldn't do what he could do. Yep. You know what I mean? And it is really, it's an honor to grow up with Richard Petty and Maurice Petty and grow up in that. But they see something that you don't see. They feel something that you don't feel. And they see it a totally different way. And Granddaddy was that way. They were all the same way, where they just could not fathom why you couldn't do the things that came so simple to them and just came so natural to them. And it's not that you didn't love it the way they loved it. It's not that you didn't have a passion for it the way they had. And I've felt the same way that you just said a million times. Am I just that dumb that I just don't see it? You know what I mean?
Well, we said we was purebred dogs. You get Pop Red, Grandfather Petty, all them, and they should go down the line, dumber to get.
Yeah, that's true. And that's probably a dang good way to explain it. To be honest,
this is what it is, right?
So when he went, he bought this Commando Jeepster. Remember that thing? And it was.
I only remember one story about the Jeep. Yeah, but it was pretty after they painted it.
How quick did it last? He brought it straight over and had him paint it?
So
Danny Holiday, did you paint that?
Did you paint that thing? So here's the thing. That's another Lee Petty, Richard Petty, Maurice Petty thing. Buy something and change it.
Yeah.
Paint the wheels.
Yeah, because it's got, you can make it better than what the factory made it. You can make it better than what the other people that no idea. But the Jeepster story was the most, what made the Jeepster infamous was y'all locking the dog in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it ate the interior out of the car.
Yep.
Now you got to realize the Jeep. All three of us, that was our first car.
Yeah.
And T-Town.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that Jeep car. You know what I'm talking about.
But we was always wanting a hot rod. But this son of a gun right here, he ruined it for all of us because he had that white.
That was Uncle Marsh's fault too, though.
Yes,
Yeah, that was Richie and Uncle Marsh's fault. Remember, we had that white Dodge Charger that was Randy's. It was Randy's, Randy Owens. Yeah, is Randy's, and and it had so you cut the fenders on it. We cut the fenders on it, pulled them out, lowered it.
Yeah, it was Wayne Dalton.
Yeah, well, listen.
We're going to give you credit.
This thing is, and Uncle Marsh put a cam in it, and put a set of heads on it and a manifold, and it got 3.5 miles to the gallon.
Must have been the Max Wedge heads.
And 3.5 miles. Listen, they built the interstate. They had the interstate out there, and was going to Asheboro one day with a kid named Ronnie Pugh. Ronnie Pugh had a Trans Am with the bird on the hood. Bad.
Smokey and the Bandit.
Smokey and the Bandit. T-tops. Are you kidding me? We're headed down the road, and Ronnie's in his car. I can't remember who's riding with Ronnie. And the interstate's not open. We're going to Asheboro. And we're in this car, so we're going to run to Asheboro as fast as we can. So we're humming along there, and we run up to about 120 or 30. I don't know. And at Pontiac of Ronnie's just kind of noses over. It's about right there. And we're screaming back and forth. His guy that's riding with him screaming back to the guys riding with me. And I told my guy, I said, ask him if that's all he's got. And he said, he screamed over and he said, is that all you got? And Ronnie's shaking his head and just, he's hanging on. And I just reached up and pulled it back into fourth gear. And we were gone.
Still eating, wasn't it?
We were gone. That Dodge Charger had 160 on the speedometer, and you could bury it any time you wanted to. And I was 17, which
Good time.
yeah, good times, good times. That was Uncle Marsh's fault. Yeah. So
Well,
no, well, it was Randy's car. But then after Uncle Marsh and them hopped it up, that's when it was. Yeah, that's when it got in trouble.
In '84, you had that Ford deal, and you showed up with that SVO.
Oh, that Mustang. That was bad to the bone.
I'm 16 years old, and I can't. I mean, only straight gear I ever drove was the Cushman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He comes in, and I was like, man, that's a cool car. I'm 16 years old. He throws the key, said, take it for a spin. So I went on down the road here. I got to 62, and it stalled out on me. I couldn't get it back going. So I turned around, come right back. But I was going to come back on the highway and see what it would do.
It's
but I said
fast.
right there, oh, no, it was fast.
Yeah, that's a little 4-cylinder.
And Timmy, you had the
Yeah.
turbocharger.
That thing would run 130 or 40.
You tell you've asked us about Uncle Marsh. Tell us about working with him because Uncle Marsh always. I mean, but he loved Kyle Petty, whether you believe it
We
or not.
argued. God,
Yeah.
we argued. Do we argue, Richie? We would
Let's hear
argue.
it.
We would argue. You know what? Here's the funny part. I will say this about Uncle Marsh is he knew what he wanted, and 99.9% of the time he was damn right in knowing what he wanted. Now, you might have had the Winston Cup championship tattooed across your back. But at 18 years old, they gave me a race car, and I went and won a race, and I thought I was the smartest human being in the world.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't know anything. But that's just what you thought. But when Uncle Marsh taught me about engines and about valve trains and about staying off, because at that time in the late 70s, early 80s, you had to stay off a motor. You didn't run them. You couldn't just hammer it lap after lap after lap. And you had to protect it, and he taught you things like that. But he was the funny part was, and you said it a minute ago, you had a little chief in you, and the thing was, you know how. So if you worked at Pay Enterprise, everybody here knows it. If you worked here, if Uncle Marsh come through and told you to do something, that's what you did. But then when Lee Boy come through and told you what to do, you just went ahead and did what Lee Boy told you to do. What the last Petty told you to do. That's kind of what you did. That's just the way it worked. You had to figure that out. But the thing was with Uncle Maurice was he would for me, and he and I would argue. We'd butt heads, man. We butted heads, but we always found a place that was a good place. And he understood where I was coming from, and I understood where he was coming from. I always walked away smarter than when I got into the argument. Yeah, you know what I mean? But as we went through, and as I was that kid that just came along and was just thrust on them. I mean, all of a sudden, Rich Petty had a 17, 18-year-old kid, and it's like, hey, we're going to get a race car and we're going to send this kid out there. That doubled the work in the motor room. That doubled the work for everybody here. We hadn't planned on that. This is long before 4-car teams. You know what I mean? This is long before all that stuff.
And it was a financial strain.
It was a big. It was, and you know, and we, the company, and my dad, we were at the end of that career. His was petering out and not winning as many races and not as dominant in the early '80s. So everything kind of came to a head at that point in time. But I've said this before, and I'll say it in front of these three guys, is when they would lock up in that back office, and honestly, when Daddy and Uncle Maurice and Grandma and Granddaddy would lock up in that back office, and they would go through the business side of it, Maurice Petty ran everything. He was the business mind behind everything they did here, and that is I'll go to my grave saying that he was the guy that could see where they needed to be, could see where he thought they needed to be, and understood when we went to Chevy, when we went to all this stuff. It depended on that man in that engine room. Could he build a Chevy engine?
And we had
Could
a
he
lot
switch
more
over?
going on than just a racing business.
Yes,
because
a lot
you had
more.
the T-shirt business going on.
Tons
you
of
had
stuff.
the racing business. You
Tons
had
of
the
stuff.
properties. It was a big deal.
Tons of stuff. So he's that. It's just that piece of that pie, because it took, and we've said it before, and we've said it a lot this year, that it took all four of them. If you take my grandmother out of the equation, it's not Petty Enterprises. If you take my granddaddy out of the equation, it's not Petty Enterprises.
Your mother and our mother.
Yeah, if you take,
They were the backbone.
It was a trickle down, and it really was, and that's the way the place has always been run.
Yep.
You know, what do you think? So I ask you this, and we don't, because I just wanted you to talk a little bit, because I really just wanted to promote Petty Brothers and your podcast.
We
How many
appreciate
people gonna
that.
listen to it from now on?
Very high.
Get off your hands, come on. There we go. That's better. All right. So, what do you guys think? Because you're still heavily involved in it, and you guys do a bunch back in the back. You talk to people on every team. What do you think? What do you think Uncle Maurice should think about where we're at right now, where the sport's at?
He probably wouldn't like the format of the. He never liked the stage stuff, which I don't.
Yeah.
either.
Yeah, because he wanted to. If you put a personal lap down, he wanted to put them down 10 laps.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But he'd be proud of everybody here.
Yeah.
I guarantee you.
I mean, he to be so gruff, he loved everybody.
Oh yeah. He did.
Well, and I'll guarantee you walk in his house any Sunday up till the end.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't paying no attention.
He didn't watch him race it, but he tell you everything about the 43.
Yeah.
Just like Dale, it's always going to be about the 43.
Yeah.
You know, and they paid attention to it through life.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he was doing that deal a while ago about talking about you and him butting heads. You'll never understand how much he supported you.
Oh, yeah,
and he
I
was
do.
behind you, because even like I guess '82, you run second at Dover.
Yeah.
And man, he
Should've won.
you thought he won the race.
Yeah.
You know, because he was just so proud of you. He had a lot of confidence in you, and he really wanted to see you do well. And he always kept
I know.
up with you.
And listen, that's why I said he taught us more. He taught us more about motors and more about stuff like that. That 82 at Dover, that's a whole nother story.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's hard to
Don't
believe.
lock up on it.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it's hard to believe you could run a cup car at 3,200 pounds against guys that weigh 3,700 pounds.
It was fun dragging it out.
It
wasn't
was fun dragging it out and getting them back to the truck.
Oh yeah.
That was good. But so you talk about, and you talk about where that's at. What's the biggest lesson? I'll just go down the line. What's the biggest thing you learned from Uncle Maurice?
Me? Or
Yeah,
Timmy, you start.
I'll start with Timmy.
You start.
Well, I think just
Because
like
you spent a lot of time up here with him.
well, just like Martha Jane come up to me a while ago and said, "Hey, you go up there and eat," and the line was from there to there. And I said, obviously you didn't know Maurice Petty. Because if I'd have got in front of anybody that was in that line, I'd have had, got your ear twisted and jerked off to the side, and it'd have been ugly.
Yeah.
But it was just, it was a respect thing for him. And it was for grandmother, grandfather, Uncle Richard. Everybody here, it was how you respect. Treat me like I want to be treated, or vice versa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what he would, and just pay attention to them small things. Because, and like this man said one time, I don't want to hurry up. This guy right here,
I was going to back you up.
Well, that's okay.
You're on your own.
Okay, good, yo-yo. So we were getting ready. We was building motors, and Mark would come up, and he was kind of aggravating about it. What if we do this? It ain't that much. It ain't that much. So finally,
Jimmy Hensley will appreciate this.
Yeah.
This was after I went and worked at the truck shop for a little while, and then I came back to the motor shop. And anyways,
so it was
if
full
you
of questions.
if you think you got good motors or not, just go to the racetrack and watch the race, and you'll know.
Yeah.
But anyways, go ahead.
So Mark, and finally,
Right.
he said, and I wasn't, I was busy doing other things. He finally says, add all them up. Add all them little halves here and half there. So we went to work on our halves and quarters and
Well, all of a sudden, you say 1 horsepower don't matter. It don't. But if you say it 20 times,
That's right.
Your butt's beat.
That's right.
so
That's it.
just even though you think you're good, you can improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry.
Your turn.
May I speak?
We're going by.
You can go ahead now, Richie.
No, but he just pay attention.
you're-
Pay attention to little things. Was the lesson.
Yeah.
I was going to agree with you about him about the
thought you were
respect.
rushing.
No, I was agreeing with you. But the deal was, the biggest lesson he taught me was treat everybody with respect. As you said, from the guy pushing the broom to the CEO of Chrysler, you treat them the same. You treat them with that respect, and that's the way he did business. He treated everybody with that respect.
Well, mine, I failed at life at this. If I'd have paid attention early, I'd have been all right, but it took me to get old man to learn. But keep your mouth shut and your ears open.
Yeah.
And
I think we all heard that one.
and that old mouth will get you in trouble every time. And if I would have learned that earlier in life, it might have been different.
I got a
It's
grandmother
all
Petty
good.
story. It includes Randy Cox.
All right.
Can I
Yeah,
branch
please.
off right
Yeah.
quick?
Yeah.
So
We can go down any road you want to go.
Well,
Yeah.
okay. Me and Randy comes out of the old drink room. Everybody knows what that is. And well, and grandmother's house is right there. The porch. And she always kept them little 6-ounce Coke holders.
Yep.
And she called them dopes. I don't know why.
Yeah. It's because that's
Anyway.
what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. When they came along.
So this had to do with you, and it's something we had to stay extra and work and all that stuff. And I flew into cussing, and I was saying all the race shop words.
Yeah.
Like Mark said, you can't really repeat them right now. So, and I'm going on with Randy, and that's, and then all of a sudden, kind of got quiet, and she goes, "Watch that nasty talk." And I heard her the first time. I was like, "What? You heard me."
No way.
She heard me, every word I said, and I was like, felt that big.
But our rule at the house was, Mama said, if y'all gonna talk dirty, you go to the garage.
Go to the garage. Yeah, because that's where it went on. That's where it went on. Yeah, you could. That was race track. That was race shop talk. That's exactly right. Now that's the way it was. All right, man. Well, thank you guys.
Thank y'all. Thank you, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Thank you guys. Thanks for coming. Thank you guys for coming. As always. Thank you.
Oh, Lordy.